I am really happy to listen Tarek Bataine talking about the quality management system, because he really addressed everything really accurate regarding what an implementation means. And what is really an implementation? It is based on some principles that you must follow. But I'm going to just go a little quick, and I'm just going to be jumping the ISO evolution and everything. And it's not a circumstance that in the world, there are more than 1.2 million certificates just for ISO 9000. And ISO 54000, that is the ISO for electoral organizations, is based on ISO 9000. So it is almost the same standard, but just addressing specific issues and requirements that needs to be met for electoral organizations. So I'm going to be just jumping a lot of, and I want to stop here on the Deming bottle, because Tarek Bataine has been really clear on the importance on closing cycles. And what is implementation all about? It's all about identifying clearly all the requirements that are needed in order to assure that you are going to be addressing them. The requirements of the citizens and interested parties. And of course, you have to be thinking on the law and regulatory requirements. So whenever you talk about quality, it's all about fulfilling all those requirements. But the main question should be, how? How are we really going to be fulfilling all those requirements? First of all, you have to think that you are planning, like in the Deming model. So everything that you will be addressing on the specific elections, you must plan it. Now we can say that on the IEC, they count every single elections. They will count with a specific electoral service development plan. And in that electoral service development plan, they will address from the activity number 1 until the last activity needed to address an election, clearly identify every single step, every single activity with every single requirement in order to follow for that. But one of the most important things, you will also be aware on who is responsible of addressing every single activity on this electoral service development plan. But then, whenever you are planning, and that is a very good thing to be doing, then you have to make sure that you are doing everything that you have planned. So you will be supported by your specific documents, and I'm talking about procedures. So you will be dividing all the elections on the 8 key electoral processes that Tarek Bataine has already explained, but you are going to assure by addressing specific procedures for each electoral process that are really well addressed. And when we say that we are really building a quality model, we shouldn't forget that everything that we are doing needs to be measured. In organizations, not just in electoral ones, they do a lot of things, but sometimes they miss on how are they measuring and monitoring things. So we have developed specific tools and methods in order to measure that every single activity is well addressed. And if somehow, because it happens, you get to have any deviation or any non-conformity, then we delivered a very specific tool that is called YAF, Improvement Action Form, in order to clearly identify the problems and then fix them. But not just correct them. And this is a very important issue when you talk about quality management system. It's not just correcting the problem. It is assuring that the problem is not going to repeat again in time. So you go to the causes of the problem, and that is the difference between a correction and a corrective action. So whenever you get into these trainings and everything that you must follow, you will be aware of clearly identifying the impact of the problems and knowing if you have to go to corrective actions instead of just correcting the problems. Then you must act. You must address preventive actions, you must address corrections, you must address corrective actions in order to achieve the expected results. When you talk about the checking, it is not just clearly identifying on every single step what are the indicators that are needed. You also have the top management review that now IEC is really aware of it and the importance of it. You are truly aware of addressing internal audits. Mr. Sultan here, now he's an expert of addressing audits. And of course, now he knows the importance of really addressing internal audits in order to what? In order to identify the problems that may address before having the elections. You know, so you must have these internal audits before addressing the elections in order to identify the possible risks, the possible opportunities that you must face and address them before they happen. So that way you will assure that you are being preventive. And closing cycles, it's what it's all about. Everything that is done on every single electoral body, every single step must be planned, then executed, then measured and monitored, and then of course closing the cycle with actions, proper actions in order to assure that you will achieve the expected results. What are the goals that you are all facing when you talk about the electoral bodies? You want to gain what? You want to gain trust. You want to run fair elections. You want to contribute to integrity. So, do you really want to contribute to these three main goals?